Hello everyone! Welcome back to our channel, where we bring you the latest and most pressing issues from across the UK. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you can stay up to date on everything that's happening around us. And for those of you who have been following us for a while, we appreciate your continued support. Now, let's dive into today's story because there's quite a lot to unpack, and this one promises to stir up quite a bit of discussion. Yesterday, we saw Prime Minister's questions return, and as usual, it was nothing short of eventful. We're not just talking about the typical heated exchanges that we often see in these sessions. This time, it's about something deeper and potentially damaging for Keir Starmer. While some people have focused on whether or not he managed to dodge questions about tax rises, there's another aspect that has captured attention, one that could have long-lasting implications for his credibility. Starmer made a significant mistake during his speech, and it didn't take long for people on the internet to catch on and call him out. It's the sort of slip that makes you wonder whether he's fully grasping the details or perhaps just getting carried away. In his response, Keir Starmer made a passionate claim about his personal connection to the Falkland Islands conflict, a statement that has since raised quite a few eyebrows. When asked about the future of the Falkland Islands in light of the recent agreement on the Chagos Islands, Starmer did not hesitate to highlight his supposed family connection. He stated that his uncle had nearly lost his life defending the Falklands during the war, mentioning that his relative's ship was torpedoed during the conflict. Starmer's assurance that the Falklands are British and will stay British sounded confident, but the truth behind his words has been questioned by many who remember the conflict all too well. What's particularly troubling here is that, during the Falklands War, no British ships were torpedoed at all. In fact, the only ship struck by a torpedo was an Argentine vessel, the General Belgrano. Given the significance of that event, and the way it has been etched into the memories of many, this claim has sparked a wave of confusion and skepticism. People took to the internet almost immediately, questioning the accuracy of Starmer's account and demanding some kind of explanation. It's no secret that public trust in politicians is a fragile thing these days, and moments like this can really undermine the confidence people have in their leaders. So, was this simply a case of Starmer making a mistake, or was it an attempt to bolster his personal connection to an issue that resonates with many? We might never know his exact reasoning, but one thing is clear. This slip-up has only added to an already challenging week for him and the Labour Party. The conversation around the Falklands is one that strikes at the heart of British national pride and identity, so it's not surprising that such a glaring inconsistency would be quickly called out by the public. And when you're in the position of Prime Minister, even the smallest errors are magnified, scrutinized, and dissected in real time. This recent misstep isn't occurring in a vacuum, either. It's only the latest in a series of difficulties for Starmer and the Labour Party as they struggle to maintain their once comfortable lead in the polls. Not too long ago, Labour enjoyed a strong advantage, often polling 20 points ahead of the Conservatives. However, as of now, that lead has shrunk down to a razor-thin margin of just 1 point. This decline in support comes despite efforts to steady the ship, including a cabinet reshuffle that was meant to bring new energy and perspective to Starmer's leadership team. The narrowing gap suggests that Labour's message may not be resonating as strongly as it once did. Now, the polls tell a revealing story. According to a survey by More in Common, Labour currently stands at 29%, with the Conservatives trailing close behind at 28%. Reform UK is making gains, pulling in 19%, while the Liberal Democrats hold steady at 11%. The Green Party has 7%, and the Scottish National Party, or SNP, is barely hanging on with just 2%. These numbers highlight a fragmented political landscape, one where every percentage point counts. And Starmer's own favorability ratings are less than encouraging. He now holds a net favorability score of -36, which is on par with Nigel Farage, who stands at -35. Even Rishi Sunak, the former Prime Minister, has a lower favorability score at -42. Starmer's first months as Prime Minister have been anything but smooth, and this latest gaffe certainly doesn't help. He's already had to contend with the departure of his Chief of Staff, Sue Gray, whose resignation has only added to the uncertainty surrounding his leadership. While the reasons behind Gray's exit remain unclear, the timing couldn't have been worse. As Starmer navigates these turbulent waters, he's facing increasing scrutiny from all sides. This is his chance to demonstrate that he can handle the pressures of the office, but moments like this put that ability into question. Meanwhile, the Conservative Party is experiencing its own upheaval. A noticeable shift has taken place, with many traditional Conservative supporters reportedly defecting to Reform UK. One prominent former Tory, Lee Anderson, has been quite vocal about this trend, claiming that the Conservative Party has lost its way. According to Anderson, true conservatives are increasingly moving towards Reform UK, which he believes better represents the values they hold dear. Anderson didn't mince words when he described the Tories as a busted flush, suggesting that the party no longer stands for the principles that once defined it. This movement towards Reform UK has provided the party with a significant boost. At the general election in July, Reform UK garnered 14% of the vote, earning them a small but meaningful foothold in Parliament. Nigel Farage, who leads the party, has seized upon this momentum, proudly announcing that their membership is growing every day. It's clear that there is a portion of the electorate that feels disillusioned with the traditional parties and is seeking an alternative. Whether Reform UK can translate this into long-term success remains to be seen, but it's certainly worth keeping an eye on as we head into the next election cycle. And then there's the issue of the winter fuel payment for pensioners, a hot topic that has raised considerable concern. Chancellor Rachel Reeves has faced significant backlash over her decision to cut this critical support, which many elderly Britons rely on to keep warm during the cold winter months. Susan Mensforth, a 79-year-old pensioner, has spoken out about the devastating impact this will have on the elderly. She called the move totally unjust, and emphasized that many pensioners are already struggling to make ends meet. Without this benefit, she fears that some may be forced to choose between heating their homes and buying food, a choice no one should have to make, especially those who have contributed to society their whole lives. Susan's story is one that resonates with many. Living in Buxton, North Derbyshire, she's no stranger to harsh winters, where temperatures can drop as low as -10 degrees Celsius. For elderly people, especially those with limited mobility, keeping warm isn't just a matter of comfort, it's a matter of survival. The Pension and Lifetime Savings Association estimates that pensioners need at least £4,400 a year to maintain a minimum standard of living. For those who are only slightly above the threshold for support, these cuts represent a serious financial blow, one that could have life-threatening consequences. In Buxton and other cold regions, the reality of winter is harsh and unyielding. Energy prices are already high, and they continue to rise, putting an additional strain on older people who may already be stretching every penny. Many elderly people spend most of their day indoors, meaning their heating costs are higher than for those who are out and about during the day. Susan pointed out that while she has been able to cut back on some things, others are faced with the tough choice of going without basics. It's a situation that highlights just how precarious life can be for those on fixed incomes. Several organizations are stepping up to help those affected by the cuts, including Silver Voices, the National Pensioners Convention, and Age UK. These groups are rallying to provide support and are calling for the government to rethink its decision. There's a growing belief that more must be done to protect vulnerable groups, especially as the cost of living crisis shows no sign of abating. For many, the decision to cut these benefits feels like a betrayal, one that targets those who are least able to advocate for themselves. The message from these organizations is clear: pensioners deserve better. The frustration with Labour's John Pearce is palpable as well. Susan criticized him and other government officials, claiming that they view pensioners who are just above the credit limit as wealthy, which she insists is a gross mischaracterization. Most pensioners, she argues, have worked hard their entire lives, paid their taxes, and now find themselves in difficult circumstances. For Susan and many others, it's hard to reconcile the government's stance with the reality they face every day. This growing discontent is a reminder of the importance of connecting with the people you serve, understanding their struggles, and addressing their needs. Before we wrap up, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Do you think the government is doing enough to support pensioners and other vulnerable groups? Or do you believe more should be done to ensure everyone can make it through the winter safely? Let us know in the comments below. And if you haven't already, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel.